Liam Hawkins had been on countless missions before, but none like this. The jungles of the alien planet, Katara, were dense and full of unknown dangers. As a soldier in the Earth's elite intergalactic forces, Liam was used to trekking through hostile environments, facing everything from alien predators to the dangers of strange, uncharted territories. But today something felt different. The air was thick with tension, and the normally calm atmosphere of the jungle was pierced by the occasional rustle of unseen creatures. The mission had been simple: patrol and report. But as Liam moved deeper into the jungle, a deafening roar suddenly shattered the silence. The ground beneath him shook violently, sending him stumbling. Trees swayed, their thick trunks groaning as if in pain. It wasn't a natural tremor. This was something far worse. Liam's heart raced. He instinctively dropped to a crouch, reaching for his communication device. "Command, do you copy?" he said, his voice steady despite the chaos around him. There was no response. Suddenly, a bright flash of light erupted through the canopy of trees, blinding him momentarily. The air turned thick with smoke as the ground quaked beneath him once more. Liam stumbled forward, his breath quickening, trying to process what was happening. Then he saw it, a streak of fire cutting across the sky, followed by a loud crash. A spacecraft had fallen from the heavens, its fiery tail tracing a path through the air. The ship was spiraling out of control, trailing smoke and sparks, before it smashed into the ground with a thunderous impact. The shockwave sent Liam flying, backward, crashing against the trunk of a nearby tree. He lay there, dazed for a moment, trying to regain his bearings. The sounds of distant explosions and crackling flames filled the air. His head throbbed, but his instincts kicked in. There was no time to waste. A crash like that meant one thing: survivors or enemies. Either way, he had a mission to complete. Liam quickly scrambled to his feet, brushing dirt off his combat suit as he ran toward the wreckage. His mind raced with questions. What had caused the crash? Was it a friendly ship? Or was it another enemy craft from the opposing forces? He knew that whatever it was, it wouldn't be a good sign. Katara was a strategic location in this sector, and any unknown presence on the planet could be disastrous. As he neared the crash site, the heat from the flames grew intense. The ship had broken into pieces, scattered across the jungle floor, like a twisted metal puzzle. Smoke billowed into the sky, and the sounds of crackling fire filled the air. Liam's heart pounded in his chest as he scanned the wreckage, searching for any sign of life. He cautiously approached the nearest section of the ship, his weapon ready. Then something caught his eye. Amidst the burning wreckage, there was a figure, slumped against a twisted piece of debris. At first, Liam thought it was just another body, but as he drew closer, he saw movement. His breath caught in his throat. A woman. No, not just any woman. She was unlike any human he had ever seen. She had soft blue skin with delicate features that were almost ethereal. Her long white hair was matted with dirt and blood, and her clothes, torn and singed, clung to her slender body. She was unconscious, barely breathing, and trapped beneath the wreckage. Liam froze for a moment, his mind struggling to process what he was seeing: an alien. She was definitely not human. His military training screamed at him to remain cautious, to assume the worst. But something inside him urged him forward. She needed help. He knelt beside her, his heart pounding in his chest. The sight of her injuries made his stomach twist. Blood dripped from a gash on her forehead, and her chest rose and fell with labored breaths. Her condition was critical. "Hang in there," Liam muttered under his breath as he quickly assessed her wounds. He was trained in basic first aid, but this was beyond what he had learned in training. Still, he knew he couldn't just leave her here to die. He had to help her. He had no choice. Liam gently lifted the debris off her, wincing as he saw the deep cuts and bruises covering her body. Her skin was soft, almost shimmering in the dim light of the jungle. He had never seen anything like it before. His hands shook slightly as he carefully cradled her in his arms, his mind racing. What was she doing here? Who was she? and how had her ship ended up on a planet that was far from any known trade routes? As he lifted her, she stirred slightly, her eyes fluttering open. They were the most striking eyes he had ever seen, large and almond-shaped, with a vivid shade, a violet. She looked at him with confusion, fear, and something else, recognition. "Please," she whispered weakly, her voice barely audible. "Help me." Liam's heart clenched. There was something about her, something more than just her alien appearance. She looked at him as though she knew him, as though she had been waiting for him. It was a feeling he couldn't explain, but it was undeniable. The weight of her gaze lingered, and for the first time in his life, Liam felt a sense of something more than just duty. It was as though the fates themselves had brought him. "Here, I'll help you," Liam said, his voice steady but filled with uncertainty. He couldn't explain why, but he knew that whatever lay ahead for them both, their paths were now intertwined. With his heart pounding in his chest, he began to move toward the shelter he had seen earlier, his only thoughts on keeping this mysterious alien alive. As he walked through the dense jungle, the strange, quiet feeling that had settled over him deepened. He could feel it now, a bond forming, something stronger than just a soldier's duty. A bond that neither of them could escape. And as the jungle closed in around them, the questions remained. What was she doing here? Who was she running from? And why did it feel as though their fates were forever tied together, even though they had just met? But one thing was certain. This was only the beginning. Liam's steps were steady but weighed down by uncertainty as he carefully carried the injured alien beauty through the dense jungle. The faint glow from his suit's visor lit up the path ahead, casting eerie shadows on the surrounding trees. The cool night air was filled with the sounds of distant wildlife, but for Liam, everything else felt distant. His focus was entirely on the woman in his arms. Her body was warm against his chest, but the steady rise and fall of her breathing was shallow. She had lost a lot of blood, and Liam could feel the weight of her fragility with every step he took. The alien princess, whose name was Lyra, was unlike anything he had ever seen. Her skin shimmered faintly under the dim light, a soft shade of blue that seemed almost otherworldly. Her hair, long and silver white, had been matted with blood, but he could see traces of its natural shine, now that she was in a safer, more stable environment. Her violet eyes, though dim with exhaustion, held a depth that Liam couldn't explain. The jungle, once dark and menacing, now felt more like a maze. Each step seemed to lead them deeper into an unknown world. Liam pushed aside the overwhelming thoughts racing through his mind. He needed to get her to safety, first and foremost. There would be time for questions later. As he finally found a secluded clearing, he gently laid her down on a bed of soft moss and fern leaves. The clearing was peaceful, surrounded by tall trees whose thick branches formed a natural canopy overhead, offering shelter from the open sky. The soft glow from his helmet's visor illuminated the space around them. It felt like a strange little pocket of calm amidst the chaos. Lyra stirred slightly, her delicate lips parting as if to speak, but the words never came. She was barely conscious. Liam quickly knelt beside her, checking her vitals and cleaning the gash on her forehead with the last of his medical supplies. As he worked, he couldn't help but wonder who she was. Her beauty, the grace in her delicate features, was captivating. But there was a deeper mystery about her. He needed answers. He muttered softly, trying to comfort her. "You're safe now. I'll help you get through this." Lyra's eyes fluttered open again, and this time, they met his with a soft intensity that made Liam's heart skip a beat. There was something familiar in her gaze, something that reached deep within him. She wasn't just an alien in need of rescue. She felt important, not just to him, but to the universe. "Thank you." Her voice was weak, barely audible, but it was enough to make Liam's heart ache. I don't know how to..." She trailed off, her eyes closing again, as if the effort of speaking was too much. Liam didn't know what to say. He wasn't a healer, just a soldier. His training had taught him how to fight, how to survive, but not how to care for someone in such dire need. He gently stroked her hair, trying to offer some comfort, You don't have to say anything, Liam said softly. Just rest, I've got you. The hours passed in silence except for the occasional rustling of leaves in the wind. The moon hung low in the sky, casting a soft silver light over the jungle. Lyra's breathing began to stabilize, and Liam's hands worked tirelessly to care for her, wrapping her wounds and providing her with whatever medical supplies he had. He could tell that she was growing weaker with each passing moment, but there was a certain strength in her that couldn't be ignored. She wasn't like any ordinary being he had ever encountered. She had a fire in her, something that couldn't be snuffed out, no matter how badly she had been hurt. When he finally leaned back to take a breath, his eyes fell on her again. Her face was so serene, even in her unconscious state, as if she had found a sense of peace in the chaos. Her eyes fluttered open once more, but this time, there was no fear in them, only curiosity. "I'm sorry," she whispered, her voice hoarse but clear now. "You didn't have to do this. I'm no one important." Liam shook his head, placing a gentle finger on her lips to stop her from speaking any further. "You don't have to explain anything. You're here, and that's what matters. You're safe now." Her violet eyes searched his face for a long moment, and for the first time Liam felt a strange weight lift from his shoulders. There was an understanding between them, an unspoken connection that went beyond words. I'm Lyra," she said slowly, her voice soft but steady. "I am the last of my kind, my people, my planet. It's all gone. I'm the last survivor." Liam's heart sank as he heard her words. "I'm sorry," he said, genuinely meaning it. He could never fully understand the pain she had endured, but he knew what it was like to lose everything. "Why, are you here?" Liam asked, his curiosity getting the best of him. "What happened? How did your ship end up here?" Lyra's eyes lowered, and for a moment she seemed lost in thought. "I was running from those who destroyed my world. My people were attacked. We've been at war for centuries, and I was part of a mission to survive." She hesitated, as if contemplating how much to reveal. "I was meant to find safety, but I never expected to crash here. With you." Liam felt the weight of her words. She wasn't just some alien princess. She was a survivor, a warrior, forced to flee her home and now stranded on a foreign planet. Her mission had failed, but in her weakness, she had found him. He felt a strange sense of responsibility, as if her fate and his were now tied together. But there was something more, a sense of destiny that couldn't be ignored. "What will happen now?" Liam asked softly, his voice filled with an uncertainty he couldn't hide. Lyra looked up at him with a deep, knowing gaze. "Now we must survive. But we are not alone. They will come for me." She paused, and for the first time, her voice shook with fear. "They will not stop until they find me." Liam nodded. He didn't need to ask who they were. He had already guessed, and now it was clear. Their journey had just begun. Whatever lay ahead, they would face it together. But what was waiting for them? And would their bond be strong enough to survive what was coming? As the night deepened, the weight of their shared fate hung heavy in the air. The jungle seemed quieter now, but Liam knew the danger was far from over. They were in this together, for better or worse. And as the first light of dawn began to filter through the trees, the soldier and the alien princess prepared for the challenges ahead. The jungle was eerily quiet now. The chirps of unseen creatures had faded, replaced by the soft rustle of leaves in the cool breeze. Liam sat near the fire, his eyes scanning the tree line, feeling the weight of the night pressing down on him. Lyra was resting beside him, her injuries stabilizing, though she still appeared fragile. Her eyes, once dull from exhaustion, were now alert, but there was an unspoken tension in the air, a sense of urgency that neither of them could shake. "We can't stay here long," Liam said, his voice low but firm. "We need to move before they find us." Lyra nodded slowly, her violet eyes flicking to the shadows around them. The quiet of the jungle felt unnatural now, as if it was holding its breath. She had spoken of the enemies chasing her, the ones who had destroyed her world, and Liam knew that they wouldn't stop until they had her. It wasn't just her life that was at risk anymore, it was his too, and he couldn't afford to let that happen. The sound of a distant explosion echoed through the air, a stark reminder that they weren't alone. Liam's grip on his weapon tightened. He couldn't see them yet, but he could feel the weight of their presence. He knew they were coming. "We don't have much time," Liam repeated, his voice harder now. "We need to go. Now." Lyra struggled to sit up, wincing slightly from the pain, but her determination was clear in her eyes. She was no longer the helpless alien princess he had found injured in the wreckage. She was becoming the warrior she was meant to be. Her body was battered, but her spirit was unbroken. "I can keep going," she said softly, her voice steady despite the lingering pain in her features. "I've survived worse." Liam met her gaze, and for a moment the weight of their shared predicament settled between them. There was no turning back now. They were in this together. They began to move through the dense underbrush, the thick foliage around them seeming to close in with every step. Liam led the way, moving with the precision of a soldier, but his mind was elsewhere, on the enemies who were closing in fast. The ground beneath them was uneven, the roots of the jungle trees tangled beneath their feet, but Liam was quick to steady himself. He had to keep them both alive. Lyra followed closely behind, her movement slower but determined. As they moved deeper into the jungle, the shadows seemed to grow longer, darker, and the sound of the approaching forces grew louder. The atmosphere had shifted. What was once a peaceful jungle had now become a trap. Suddenly, a rustling sound came from the left, and Liam's instincts kicked in. Without a word, he grabbed Lyra's arm and pulled her behind a thick tree trunk. He motioned for her to stay quiet, his eyes scanning the surroundings. The sound of footsteps grew louder, and the heavy breathing of the enemy soldiers reached his ears. They were close, too close. Lyra's eyes met his, and in that brief moment he saw the fear in them. She wasn't just afraid for herself, she was afraid for him too. She had never asked him to be a hero, but here he was risking everything to protect her. And for the first time, Liam realized that he wasn't just protecting her out of duty. There was something more. Something deeper. He was protecting her because he couldn't stand the thought of losing her. The soldiers' voices broke through the silence, muffled but clear enough for Liam to understand. "She's close. Keep searching. She can't be far." Liam clenched, his fists. They were searching for her, hunting her down with cold, ruthless precision. He could hear the hatred in their voices, and the thought of them getting their hands on Lyra filled him with a burning anger. He wouldn't let them have her. "We need to move," Liam whispered urgently to Lyra, his voice barely above a breath. "Stay close and stay quiet." They began to move again, carefully threading through the underbrush, taking cover whenever the enemy came too close. Liam led them through the jungle with the skill of a seasoned soldier, using the terrain to his advantage. But even with all his experience, he couldn't shake the feeling that they were being cornered. The jungle was closing in on them from all sides, and their pursuers were relentless. A sudden sharp noise broke the silence, an alarm from one of the enemy soldiers. The sound of weapons being cocked filled the air. They had found them. Without warning, gunfire erupted in the distance, and Liam's heart pounded in his chest. The chase was on. "Run!" Liam shouted. They bolted, moving faster now, their legs pumping through the thick undergrowth. Behind them, the sound of the soldiers' pursuit grew louder. Liam glanced over his shoulder, his heart racing as he saw the enemy soldiers crashing through the jungle after them. The air was filled with the sharp crack of gunfire and the screams of soldiers urging each other on. Lyra's breathing was ragged, but she pushed herself harder. She wasn't just running from her enemies anymore. She was running toward a future she had no idea about, a future that depended on both of them surviving this moment. Liam could feel the heat from the gunfire as it whizzed past them, narrowly missing. He ducked behind a large rock, motioning, for Lyra to do the same. They crouched there, breathing heavily, trying to remain out of sight. Liam's mind raced. There had to be a way out of this. There had to be a plan. "They'll find us again," Lyra said softly, her voice filled with a mixture of fear and resignation. "We can't keep running forever." Liam looked at her, his eyes burning with determination. "We won't run forever," he said, his voice unwavering. "We fight back. We survive." For the first time, Lyra smiled, a small, fragile smile, but it was enough. She wasn't just a princess anymore. She was a fighter. And together, they were going to face whatever came next. They knew they couldn't keep hiding forever. But, for now, the jungle offered them a temporary refuge, a chance to regroup, to plan. The soldiers were closing in, but Liam and Lyra weren't done yet. They would make it through this. Together. The sun had begun to rise over the dense jungle, casting its soft golden rays through the thick foliage above. Liam and Lyra had been on the move for hours, exhaustion weighing heavily on their bodies, but neither of them had slowed down. They had reached the edge of the jungle, but the open field before them offered no guarantees of safety. Still, they pushed forward, driven by the need to escape the relentless enemy forces who were never far behind. Lyra's strength was fading. Her breathing was shallow, and her steps had grown slower. The injuries she had sustained from the crash, combined with the continuous pressure of running from the enemy, had taken a toll on her. She stumbled slightly, and Liam instinctively reached out to steady her. His heart clenched with concern. "Lyra, we can rest here for a moment," Liam said, his voice soft yet firm. He gently pulled her to a small outcropping of rocks where they could hide. It wasn't much, but it would have to do. Lyra shook her head weakly, her violet eyes filled with both determination and pain. "We can't stop now. They'll catch us if we do." Liam knew she was right, but he couldn't ignore the worry gnawing at him. "You need to rest," he insisted. "You're pushing yourself too hard." Lyra gave him a look that was a mixture of gratitude and sadness. "I don't want to be weak," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I can't afford to be weak. Not now." Liam knelt beside her, his eyes softening. "You're not weak, Lyra. You're the strongest person I've ever met." Her eyes searched his face for a long moment, and there was something there. Something deeper than just gratitude or acknowledgement. In the quiet of that moment, beneath the canopy of the alien jungle, something shifted between them. She reached out, her delicate hand gently touching his arm, her fingertips brushing against his skin. "You've done more for me than anyone ever has," she said softly. "I don't know how to repay you for what you've given me." Liam was taken aback by the sincerity in her words. For a moment, he didn't know how to respond. All this time he had been focused on survival, on keeping her safe. But here she was, offering him something he hadn't expected: thanks, trust, and an unspoken connection. "You don't need to repay me," Liam said, his voice thick with emotion. "We're in this together. That's all that matters." The words seemed to hang in the air, heavy with meaning. Lyra looked at him, her gaze steady, and for the first time since their journey began, Liam felt like everything had changed. The mission, the chase, the survival, they were no longer just about staying alive. This was about something deeper, something he hadn't expected, the bond between them, the connection that had grown stronger with every passing moment. Lyra took a deep breath, her fingers still resting against his arm. "I think I've known this from the moment you found me," she whispered. "That we were meant to meet, that we were always meant to be together." The words struck Liam like a sudden revelation. He had felt it too, in the quiet moments, in the way their fates had intertwined without warning. But he hadn't allowed himself to truly acknowledge it. Until now. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The sound of the jungle seemed to fade into the background, and all Liam could hear was the steady beating of his own heart. His hand moved instinctively to hers, taking it in his, the touch warm and grounding. "We are?" Liam said quietly, his voice thick with emotion. Meant to be together. Forever. Lyra's eyes glistened with something close to tears, though she didn't shed them. Instead, she simply nodded, as if she had known all along but had needed him to say it. She had needed him to believe it too. Their hands remained entwined, the simple act of touching more powerful than anything words could convey. The bond between them had grown beyond just the shared struggle for survival. It was now a bond of hearts, of fates intertwined in a way neither of them could fully understand. Suddenly, a noise broke the silence. The crack of a twig snapped their attention back to reality. The enemy was closing in again. Liam's grip on her hand tightened. We need to move now. Without hesitation, they stood, their bodies moving in sync as they quickly slipped into the dense undergrowth, their minds focused on the task at hand. But even as they moved, something in Liam had shifted. No longer was he just a soldier doing his duty. He was a protector, bound to her not just by circumstance but by something more profound, more inexplicable. They made their way through the jungle with renewed determination, moving with the knowledge that they were no longer just two survivors on the run. They were partners, bound together by more than just the threat of death. They were bound by a love that transcended everything, a love that would keep them fighting, keep them alive. As they reached a small clearing, Liam paused, glancing back toward the jungle behind them. The enemy was closing in fast, but this time, he wasn't afraid. He had something to fight for, someone to protect, and that made all the difference. Lyra stood beside him, her hand still in his. There was no more fear in her eyes. There was only a quiet strength, a strength that had been forged in the fires of their shared struggle. Liam turned to face her, his heart full. We're going to make it through this, he said, his voice filled with certainty. Together. Lyra smiled, a radiant, genuine smile that made everything worth it. Together, she agreed. As the enemy forces closed in on them, Liam knew that the true battle had just begun. But he was no longer just fighting for survival. He was fighting for love, for something far greater than the struggles they had faced up to this point. And as they stood together, ready to face whatever came next, the bond between them grew even stronger. This was their story. A love born from chaos. A love that would bind them forever.